DMAC from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me is Kayla Fonte. And together, we are Between Two Hoops. Kayla, how are you going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really well. We have already done one show. Now it's our second one. This one, we're going to be looking at our injuries as well as the week 3 schedule. Shall we get straight into it?
Let's do it.
All right, headlined by Paolo Banchero, unfortunately, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's start at the top. We'll go in order of we think the guys that will return the soonest to guys that have the longer term injuries. But starting with Steph Curry, he's questionable for the next game, which is awesome to see. Ankle, we know that he's had ankle issues a lot of his career, but yeah, questionable to come back into the next game. I still think guys like Brandon Podziemski, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, they still need to be held, but good news for those that have Steph Curry on their roster.
Yeah, it's good, especially because we thought it was going to be a lot longer too. So fingers crossed with him.
Absolutely. Now, guys that have been shelled for the first 2 weeks of the season, but Paul George looks like he will play in the very next game today with his knee bone bruise. He will be back. Joel Embiid, I think he'll be back. He won't be back in the next game, but I think he'll be back within the next week with his knee recovery.
Yeah, I think there also were concerns about a potential suspension though, over what happened with the reporter. So definitely something
Yeah,
to
that's
monitor as
crazy.
well.
That's
But
crazy how that came out
yeah,
as well. Just some of that news, and then some of the news first came out that he punched someone and that it was a shove,
mhm.
and then a lot of people were piling onto the journalist. So that's very interesting. See how that all pans out. But yeah, watching a lot of 76ers Twitter and just piling onto the journalist after a lot of people were piling onto the process that is Joel Embiid. So hopefully he is back within the week, because I have him in one team, and that was a team that we're actually we're in the same league. We're actually on the same
Mhm.
team. This is the World versus Filipino League, and I went for ultra high risk, and it hasn't paid off so far. But yeah, it'll be good to see him back. Next one. Well, we've got a chunk of guys that are day to day, so they could be back next game, but hopefully within the next couple of games anyway. But Larry Markkinen with his back spasms, we know that it's going to be a bit of a rough season for anyone that has Utah Jazz, but particularly Larry Markkinen. We spoke about him in our buy low episode, but it's one of those where you have to be cautious on Lowry, because I think down the stretch it could be a situation where he does sit a lot more games, particularly with the Jazz start to the season so far.
Yeah, definitely a big risk. They're not contenders this year, as we all know.
Absolutely. Now, Devin Vassell, I think he'll be a welcome addition to that Spurs team. Spurs have looked quite good in the last couple of games. So we know that there's been guys like Champagne who's stepped up. Keldon Johnson stepped up in the last game, but Devin Vassell just gives them a little bit more of an elite option from that wing position.
Yeah, he'll definitely take a little bit to ramp up, so they could still have a little bit of value, but could be heading towards a drop for someone like Champagne.
Absolutely. Now, Emmanuel, quickly, one of your guys we spoke about in our first episode of the day, our sell highs, talking about RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, Yucca Purtle to a lesser degree, but Emmanuel quickly is coming back pretty quickly.
I love the pun there. Could eat in a little bit of Barrett's value, but I still see him maintaining his high production.
Yeah, and we were very high and quickly, or me particularly, very high and quickly coming into this season. So I still have high hopes of him. He's missed the missed the last few games, but I expect him to really recover quickly. And I'm hoping that he'll be that top 50 guy that I expected come pre-season. DeAndre Hunter, he's missed the last couple with a knee issue. I think he'll be back in the next, if not the game after that. He was a must roster guy in 12s before the injury, but now guys are coming back. Rissa Shea has stepped up in his absence. So DeAndre Hunter is probably more like that stream guy, but I think he's still worthy of a roster spot. But anyway, he'll be back shortly. Jaylen Brown, he missed the last game with a hip flexor strain. He's day-to-day at this stage. Of course, Peyton Pritchard stepped up in his absence. But yeah, hopefully Jaylen Brown's absence is a short one. Jamal Murray's in concussion protocol, so I'd expect that he misses at least the next couple, or at least the next game, but I'd expect the next couple of games. But we'll talk about ads in another episode. But is Russell Westbrook relevant all of a sudden?
Possibly. I mean, he's going to kill you with the
Possibly.
percentages and the turnovers. But other
Yeah.
than that, he can give you some value with the main cats.
Yeah, decent streamer. Nick Richards, shoulder soreness. We still don't know what's going on with Mark Williams, and we'll get to that shortly. But people have dropped him considerably over the last couple of days. But I think he's still worthy of a roster spot in 12s, just until we find out what's going on with Mark Williams at least. Wendell Carter Jr. Now, a few sites have listed him as day-to-day, possibly questionable for the next game, but plantar fasciitis or plantar fascia strain. Yeah, we're not sure how long this is going to take, and I'm hoping it will be a short-term injury, but yeah, it remains to be seen at this stage.
Didn't he have
Now,
this injury last year too?
I think he did. I
Or
think he did,
he
and it really
right?
interrupted his season. And then we saw the three-headed monster at center as well. So we could get into that sort of situation. And Wendell Carter could find himself more as a streamer rather than a must hold guy at this stage, which is disappointing because he started off the season pretty strongly.
Mhm.
Next chunk of guys, probably around that 1 to 2 week timeline. Chris Middleton hasn't played a game this season, but I think he's close with his ankle issue. Trey Murphy's in a similar boat. I think he's around a week away with his hamstring concern. Shaden Sharp, another guy coming back from injury. I think he's around 1 to 2 weeks away. Jordan Clarkson has played this season, but again, he's not a must roster guy, but it's interesting just to see how his absence for, I think, at least a week will play out. Colin Sexton gets a bit of a boost. Colin Sexton was looking like a droppable guy, but Jordan Clarkson being out has probably helped his value there. Colin Sexton, that is. DeJounte Murray, obviously, he fractured his hand, but I think he could only be 2, maybe 3 weeks away from returning. So that's a welcome return for the banged up Pelicans. So himself, Trey Murphy, Zion missed the last game, CJ McCollum as well. So yeah, absolutely banged up at this stage.
Yeah, and his injury happened really early too. So, I mean, we're already heading into week 3, which is nuts. So
It is
return
nuts.
soon.
Yeah, and it was bad timing for CJ because CJ got a massive boost and then he himself got hurt, and we'll talk about that shortly, but he's out for probably up to a month as well. But Mark Williams, we said we don't really know of his status at this stage, but I'm thinking I'm hoping it'll be a short-term absence. But again, it's the Charlotte Hornets. We don't really know what's happening with Mark Williams, but he's hoping that it's going to be maybe 1 or 2 weeks.
Yep.
Next one, Asar Thompson. Now, yeah, I like Asar's game, and I think he's a very fantasy-friendly sort of guy, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Detroit. There's a few wings on that team now, a lot of veteran wings as well. So it'll be tough for him to have 12-team value straight away. But for him to return from his blood clot issue, awaiting medical clearance, I don't know exactly how long, but I'm hoping he'll return very shortly.
Yeah, we haven't really received any news about it either, which is a little bit worrisome, but hopefully sometime soon.
Fingers crossed. Kyle Kuzma and Marcus Smart. We spoke about Kyle Kuzma on one of our earlier shows, just talking about how he's a bit of a buy low, even while he's out. Bilal Coulibaly has stepped up in his absence, but groin strain, 2 to 3 weeks out. You think he's a buy low, but 2 to 3 weeks out, who knows? He's really started very, very slowly this season.
Yeah, I think he's a buy low for sure. He wasn't really having a great season to start with. Very little value outside of points and rebounds, and I think the injury doesn't really help that either.
Not at all. Marcus Smart, I don't think you have to roster him at the moment, even though he's just sidelined for 2 to 3 weeks with his ankle concern. For me, he's not rosterable in a 12-teamer category or points for that matter.
Yeah, especially when the team is fully healthy with Ja Morant. Well, Desmond Bain is injured, but still, like the value just hasn't been there.
Yeah, and Scottie Pippen Jr.'s stepped up. Jalen
Mhm.
Wells is stepping up now as well, so he's a nice add. Herb Jones is out for about 3 weeks with his shoulder strain. Another guy from the Pelicans that's banged up. Kawhi Leonard, I'm hoping he'll be out for maybe another 3 weeks or so. But again, that's wishful thinking. But watch this space on Kawhi because that's been extremely disappointing. We knew going into this season that he would have some concerns, but he was still going around that 50 mark in drafts. But it's been very disappointing to see him not really have much of a status update on his knee rehab at this stage. But let's hope that it's around that 3 to 4 week mark. You mentioned Desmond Bain, another guy from Memphis that's banged up. Oblique issue, 3 to 4 weeks. Same timeline for Scotty Barnes with his orbital fracture, so that's a bit of a nasty injury there. CJ McCollum, we mentioned 3 to 4 weeks with his adductor strain. And Bogdan, so we were high on Bogdan as a late round guy, but 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. Atlanta do have a lot of talent on their team, and I've got probably half of their team on one of my rosters, which is interesting. I also have Bogdan in a few leagues as well, so I've stashed him away in IR. So I think he's still worthy of a roster spot if you can stash him in IR. Otherwise, I think you may need to let him go with that 3 to 4 week timeline.
Yeah, a lot of people did drop him too. I scooped him up in a couple of leagues, but only because I could afford that IL spot.
Yeah, exactly right. We mentioned DeJounte Murray, so out probably another 4 to 6 weeks with his hand injury, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, this happened obviously before the season started, but 4 to 5 weeks, I'm hoping he returns quick smart. We get that twin towers of himself and Chet, and yeah, still a sell high moment for Chet Holmgren at this stage.
Oh, definitely. His value has been absolutely phenomenal so far.
Oh, baby. Speaking of value, Paolo Banchero, he had just a couple of massive games, but yeah, really bad timing for the Magic. Torn oblique, 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a massive blow for those that have Paolo on their team.
But that also means that there's other guys who could be a sell high, like Jalen Suggs.
Jalen Suggs, and we spoke about him. Yep, nice crossover there. Kayla, well done. Yep, Jalen Suggs, we spoke about on our sell high show earlier. So make sure you check that one out as well. But yeah, other guys needing to step up in Paolo's absence. Kristaps Porzingis, Mitchell Robinson, and Taylor Hendricks. These are longer-term injuries. Taylor Hendricks, he's done for the season, so that's really unfortunate. That was gruesome scenes to watch for such an up-and-coming young guy. So he'll be back better than ever next season. But Kristaps Porzingis, he's on a lot of rosters, sitting in that IR or IL slot. And Mitchell Robinson, he's probably not in the same situation, but he's probably still another 2 months away. And with Cat doing so well at the center position, for me, I don't think Mitchell Robinson needs to be rostered at all.
Yep, agreed.
Moving away from injuries, because that is a massive injury list. Need to get through that one. Now we're getting into the week 3 schedule. Take us through this, Kayla.
Yeah, so this week it is busy. So 26 teams are playing 4 games. There are only 4 teams that are playing 3. So that's the Nets, Pelicans, Jazz, and Wizards. It's going to be a heavy schedule, that's for sure.
Heavy schedule in that Pelicans team. Yeah, we said they're super banged up right now. So a lot resting on the shoulders of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson right now.
Sell
Quickly
highs.
going through the week 3 daily breakdown. Take us through those ones.
So Monday, this is going to be a very, very, very busy day. Every single team is playing today. So there's a lot of good streaming opportunities, which we'll talk about in our ads, drops, holds, and streamers show. But Tuesday, important, there are no games. And this is because obviously the election in the States, full attention on that. Wednesday, we have 12 games. So a lot of good streaming opportunities there. With Thursday, there's not so much because there's only 3 games happening. And it kind of goes back and forth where there's a lot of games, then very few. So Friday, we follow it up with 13, whereas the next day, Saturday, only 4. But you have an opportunity to close out the week strong on Sunday because there's 11 games.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for those high quality games, for the ones that have a low number of games on the day as well. So yeah, you say a lot of streaming opportunities on the Monday, but more often than not, you've got a full roster as well. So heaps of teams, heaps of guys that could play. But you may have a full roster as well. So low quality day for those guys. Now, take us through the back-to-back, starting with, I guess, yesterday with Sunday's game for week 2.
So Monday, Tuesday, obviously no back-to-backs just because there are no games on the Tuesday due to the election. Same with Wednesday as well. There's nothing. Wednesday, Thursday, you can go with the Bulls and the Spurs. A couple of opportunities there. With the Bulls, not as much. Dasunmu is one opportunity. But with the Spurs, Champagne has still looked really good. Castle, not as much. He's more so of a drop for us. But still, he's providing solid value. And Jeremy Sohan as well. He's rostered, I believe, in the low 60s. So if he's available, go snag him up.
Go grab
Thursday,
him.
Friday, he's been great, right?
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of people weren't high on him.
Yeah.
Which is surprising, but I love his fantasy stat set. Thursday, Friday, we have a couple of options with the Bucks, Wolves, and Blazers. Scoot is definitely someone to keep an eye out for. He had a rough couple of games, but I think he can still turn it around. He's very promising sophomore.
And he
Friday,
may have been
Saturday.
dropped as well, so keep an eye out for that. I
Yeah.
think he was heavily dropped, but for us, he's a hold, and we'll go through that in one of our other episodes. So watch out for that one as well. Nice segue there, Kayla. But yeah, Scoot, I think he's a hold for that for us anyway.
For sure. And it comes back into patience, right? Especially with someone like Scoot, where we saw him last season struggling for most of the year and then having a lot of high quality games. You just got to wait it out for that. I definitely wouldn't drop him, and he's a hold, like we mentioned.
Yep.
Friday, Saturday, we have the Hawks, Nets, Cavs, and Clippers. The Clippers are a gold mine. Powell should be rostered. If he's not, go pick him up. Um, Porter are more deeper leagues. They're not someone that you have to hold on to, but they can still provide decent value sometimes.
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday, we have your beloved Raptors. There are so many injuries on this team that, like I said before, it's a gold mine, right? You can't go wrong. And we'll talk about the ads and streams in another show.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, absolutely busy week. We know we've got Ben Simmons pictured there. So he's sitting out the second leg of the back-to-back on the Monday. So he played yesterday. So he'll be sitting out the Monday as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for those back-to-backs, but no real obvious back-to-back rest issues outside of Ben Simmons at this stage. Now, that's a wrap for this nice and quick episode. Kayla, any other thoughts?
Yeah, just make sure to check out the next episode coming with the ads, drops, holds, and streams. That will really help out with the schedule. And like you said, obviously there's not a lot of streaming opportunities for Monday. I got it mixed up just because every single team is playing.
Absolutely. Now, if you haven't watched our other episodes today, make sure you do check that out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So like and subscribe. And of course, find us on Twitter. You'll find Kayla at Kayla_Fonte. You'll find myself at NBA Fantasy Bible. But until next time, Kayla, thank you very much, guys. See you then.